Hi guys, this is Denise Brooks with Alexis Information Systems. Today, we're doing our first of the four-part series on data management. I thought of those that currently are stuck at home and can't sleep or are dealing with insomnia like I am. I had that problem a few years ago, and now with all these changes, it came back. So I decided this would be a great time to create a series and call it INSOMNIAC series. That's where the name came from. Data management, because that's really my area of expertise, and if I can't sleep, that's all I think about all the time. Next, I'm going to change to my computer and show you a demo of pivot table. And then if you have any questions as we go through this, just put it in the comments, and then I will answer all of your questions tonight. Let's go ahead and dive into Excel. And because you're looking for a summary and you possibly already did a grand total in your data, the first step that I always recommend you do is to remove that grand total. So we'll scroll down to the bottom and we'll remove the grand total. Okay, so I'm going to just select the entire row, right click, delete. If you're concerned with deleting those grand totals, what you can do is you can make a copy of this worksheet before you delete it. And to make a copy of a worksheet is really easy. So you just go to your tab, right click, you click move or copy. Make sure the one you like is highlighted. Click on the button to create a copy. Click OK, and it's there. All right, so in Excel, when you want to add something, the place where you would go into your ribbon is in the Insert tab. So I hope you remember that. So pivot table requires that you have a range selected so that it would know which data to summarize. All you have to do is just make sure your cursor is in one of the cells and it will pick up all the range. So I'm just going to click here where it says 2. So, and then I'll click pivot table. And Excel automatically chooses the range for me. A pivot table is simply a canvas in Excel that allows you to summarize. So it typically would live in the same workbook as the Excel spreadsheet that you're trying to solve. That's why we're going to create a new worksheet. So just select that. Those are the defaults, so we didn't have to change anything. Then I click OK. And we're going to move that right there. And now we are in a different canvas. I call it a different canvas because what Excel does is it takes that data that you selected and it organizes it into fields. A little bit of a background, and we'll go over this a lot more next Thursday. So in order for you to analyze data, you need a table, pivot tables. And then each table has fields. So that's the column names when we are doing a pivot table. So now the column names that we had in our sales detail are now fields. Before we do any pivot table, let's rename our worksheet because we'll need it. So double click, and then I just usually call mine pivot. We're going to look at a few scenarios. So what if, I'm going to go to my sales detail so we can ask questions together. All right. What if we wanted to know how many people paid by each of the payment methods? How about which cashier does the most transactions? And also we could look up all the transactions according to the bill to city. All right, so we'll go to pivot table. All right. So the first one, we want to know the payment details. We want to know a little bit about that. So I put my cursor next to the word payment, hold it and drag it to rows. And if you can see now, it shows up on the left side with each of the payment methods that were in that table. So we want to know how many receipts were created for each of the payment methods. So we'll go here, hold on to receipt, drag and drop. And by default, Excel does a sum. We're looking for a count because we want to know how many receipts. So what you would do is you go to this down pointing arrow on the right and then click on the word value field settings and ta-da! So we're going to change it from sum to count. Now we'll click OK. And then the second example I want to show you, kind of the same style. Let's find out in this data which cashier was the most productive. So we won't need payment anymore. So I just dragged it back and I'm going to add cashier. There. You see, because I know that the receipt is unique, I didn't have to touch it. I'm looking for different counts. I'm looking for how many times this cashier did a transaction. So now I can look and I'll be able to tell that, okay, Brian S. is the most productive cashier. But if you look, there's a blank there because as the example shows in our data, so if we go here, so some of the transactions, like right there, didn't have a cashier. So it tells you, all right, so there's been 146 transactions that you wouldn't know who did it. So you wouldn't be able to pay commission. Just those scenarios like that one. All right, so the other one that we can do, so I don't need cashier anymore. So there you go. And now we want to go to the bill to city. So bill to city, drag and drop. All right, it's telling us how many times someone from those cities came in, but I want to show you the total dollar that came from which area. So now we're going to go back to those value field settings. So I clicked on the down pointing arrow. I clicked on value field setting, click on sum, okay. And now I can see which city brings in the most money for the example that we have. And just because we're dealing with money, let's put dollars, just so we're okay. So just select there and put the dollar. This is really the essence of using pivot tables, to be able to summarize data and to use what ifs. So we were able to find out different information just based on the receipt. So as long as we have something unique, we can compare and summarize things in pivot table. And that's why I use pivot table as the foundation of any type of conversation when it comes to data management. I hope this is something that will keep you busy. This is during this really weird time because it's kind of weird for all of us. And thank you for spending your evening with me.